involved with her. Okay, come on up, Jenny.
Hello? Okay. All right, this is nerve-wracking for me. I'm not a public speaker. I'm very nervous, but this issue is very important, and it's not getting the attention that it so desperately needs right now. I want to thank Julie. Thank you so much. I've already told Julie. I think she's an angel. But thank you so much for having me and listening to me. And I'm not on the left anymore, by the way. I'm an independent, so people are going to have to fight for my vote. Okay, so what I am is where I come from, or, you know, kind of my credentials, I guess you would say. I'm part of a nonpartisan coalition called Hands Across the Aisle. We're a large group of women from all over the world and from all over the political spectrum. We are all united in our goal to defeat transgender ideology. I'm going to explain, do my best to explain this. It's trigger warning, by the way, trigger warning. That's very upsetting. Okay, there's a lot to say. I first want to say that transgender dysphoria is a serious and agonizing condition. Those who suffer from it deserve the best care and compassion. What's heartbreaking is that these individuals receive anything but. They have been exploited and capitalized on in the worst way. They need compassionate care. What they're getting are parades and exploitation. And men, it is known by psychology, though vehemently suppressed and denied by trans activists, that there are two types of trans men: the transsexual, homosexual gay men, who, to be brief, basically they want to be loved by men as a woman. They're gay. It's mental illness. The second type of trans is the one that is going to be the threat to women and girls' safety, which, by the way, I am a feminist, but I'm not a liberal feminist. A feminist is a woman who believes in female liberation, and we are only liberated if we protect our rights and our safety. Okay, so the second type of mentally ill transgenders. Okay, so they're called autogynephilic. I've spoken to men that suffer from autogynephilia, and the ones that are aware of their condition, they're just people that have a mental illness, and they're aware of it. The ones where it becomes a problem is the autogynephilic men who also are narcissistic, so narcissistic that they don't realize that they have a condition. And these are the men that are going to be, I mean, literally rapists are being allowed in women's prisons because they identify as men. They keep their male genitalia intact, but identity. So, autogynephilia, to explain it a little better, it's when a man falls in love with the idea of himself as a woman. You may have seen a video that went viral recently that showed a man dressed as a woman freaking out in a video game store because the store clerk called him sir instead of ma'am. He ran around kicking stuff. He was like, "It's ma'am, I'm not a sir, I'm a man." And he just completely lost it, and it was funny to watch, but what people don't understand is the reason why that man had so much rage is because that clerk basically told him that his girlfriend looks like a man, because he's in love with that image of himself as a woman. Okay, so these autogynephilic narcissists care only about being affirmed. They must be affirmed no matter what, and this is what I believe has led to the birth of trans children. A statistic that is well known in the medical community before political activism took over this area of mental health is that there's an 80 to 90% desistance rate in kids who suffer from gender dysphoria. So if your 4-year-old comes to you and says he's really a girl, there is an overwhelming likelihood that your child will grow up out of this condition and lead a normal life. However, now that the feelings of autogynephilic men have become priority, we can no longer recognize that gender dysphoria almost always desists. Activists have made it so the only treatment recommended for these kids is affirmation only. A treatment where you can only agree with your child, encourage their child to believe their delusion, and tell them that they have indeed been born in the wrong body. There's currently a bill in the Texas House, HB 517, that will remove a parent's right to give their gender dysphoric child any other psychological treatment besides this affirmation-only care. If it passes, it will be illegal to call your gender dysphoric daughter she. And if it becomes as bad as it has become in parts of Canada, Doing so would be considered an act of domestic violence. They'll always use the trans people commit suicide. Don't talk bad about trans people. You'll literally kill them. They're going to kill themselves if you're not nicer to them. They kill them. They have a high suicide ideation rate because they are mentally ill. And we need to be able to say that out loud because they need compassionate care, not a parade. So in affirmation-only care, you immediately affirm your child's delusion that they were born in the wrong body. You dress your child as the opposite sex and buy them toys that are stereotypically meant for the opposite sex. When your child approaches puberty, their doctor will put them on puberty blockers, which prevents their bodies from developing naturally. And then once the period of natural puberty ends, they are given high-dose cross-sex hormones that will very likely sterilize them for life. And no long-term studies have been done on these hormone treatments, but it is known that they do cause organ and bone damage. There's also a lot of surgeries involved. Girls as young as 13 are having double mastectomies, and boys as young as 17 will have their penis removed and inverted to create a fake vagina. I have met and spoken to a teenage girl who thought she was trans, and so she had her breasts removed, only to realize later that she was not trans, but just extremely uncomfortable with her body due to childhood sexual abuse and trauma. Her doctors did not probe her for any reason why she might be experiencing dysphoria, as current medical standard is only to affirm. She quickly and easily made an appointment for a double mastectomy, and her insurance covered it. Rapid onset gender dysphoria. But wait, there's more. Rapid onset gender dysphoria is a teenage social condition. It is a trend. The left has been so successful in turning oppression into a commodity and virtue signaling into a currency that teenagers now feel as though they have to be part of an oppressed class in order to be valuable. Teenagers get on the internet, see all these stories about trans people being stunning and brave, and they also want that attention for being stunning and brave and special and rainbows and unicorns. It's a new phenomenon. The surge in teen trans is it's obvious that this is a new phenomenon. However, the studies and reports that exist, they are being silenced by the rabid activists on the left that do not want you to hear the truth. And the media and academia kowtows to these activists out of fear of public shaming and losing their jobs over their hateful bigotry. I'm here today because this issue is only getting worse. The LGB made a huge mistake when it included the T, and an even bigger mistake when they allowed for the inclusion of the Q. For all the letters that have been added to the LGBTQ LMNOP, Q is the one that sticks. What does Q mean? Q stands for queer. Queer is a slur and a meaningless word. The left, it doesn't mean anything, it's a meaningless word. The left doesn't have a coherent definition because they refuse to be coherent on this issue, because if they were coherent, they would understand that it's a global fraud, is what it is. So if you want to feel like a special oppressed class, all you have to do is say, I identify as queer. And then, oh hugs, you're part of the LGBTQ rainbow. So what qualifies you as queer? Basically anything. I could say I'm attracted to men with beards. That means I'm queer. I identify as queer. If you don't have a beard, I don't find you attractive or not queer. But when you look into the history of queer theory, though, and the origins of queer as an identity, you'll find something very disturbing and I think deliberate. In queer theory, your erotic orientations are what make you queer. So if you're aroused by trees, the fact that you have that erotic orientation, you find trees attractive, this makes you queer. Which may sound funny to you, but if your erotic orientation is that you're aroused by children, then you are also queer, and now you are a protected class. Local Democrats were pretty mad that I decided to come today. They think that I'm just a hateful bigot that's out hating all the way to the bank, because they probably think that Tim Dunn or somebody paid me to be here. But the truth is that it's their fault I'm here. I tried to have this conversation with them. They shut me down. They shut me down. They called me nasty, mean names. They kicked me out of all their groups. They shunned me. I mean, it's all manipulation, because they can't listen to me. If they do, they would find out this is just so dumb. So it's not my fault that I'm here. And I'll tell you what, I did speak to Mr. Steve Riddle, who ran after Mr. Stickland, my new friend, Jonathan Stickland. Steve Riddle, who ran against Jonathan Stickland, I talked to him about this for days and days, and he ignored me, and then he ignored me. Well, he listened, but he basically treated me like I was hysterical and needed a Midol and told me I was imagining things. And he also sent me some messages that were not appropriate for any married man to send to a married woman, so you can bet I won't be supporting Mr. Riddle. He showed a real lack of judgment there when he thought I would put up with that. So, my time's up. I gotta stop. I have so much more, so if anybody wants to talk about this, I've got.
Actually, we are still waiting. Dan's gonna